Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of Columbus Citizens Foundation, and I'm thrilled to have Vincent Amoia with us, who's a past Columbus Citizens Foundation scholarship recipient and a graduate of St. John's, and he works as an accountant, which he's going to tell us about his educational and career path. But I think he's also combined some of his professional work with a passion he has for education. And he also works as a consultant, creating opportunities for students primarily in Asia to have educational and exchange opportunities in the UK and the US. And I'm really eager to hear him tell us about that. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Vincent.
Thank you, Lisa. So as mentioned, I was a scholarship recipient in high school and college from Columbus. I'm eternally grateful for those opportunities, in addition to having the pleasure of going to Lago de Bosco and interning with one of the foundation's members. One big piece of advice, and just in that regard, use Columbus as a networking tool and take every advantage they give you. I definitely found it extremely beneficial. And I made a lot of friendships from that, from other events, things of that nature. I attended St. John's. I did my bachelor's in finance and then my master's in accounting. As mentioned, I'm currently an accountant. I do enjoy my line of work, but I have, over the last 5 or 6 years, in addition to being a tutor, assisted international students with applying to college, preparing them for English proficiency exams, and other consulting engagements. If they're in a high school, making sure they're okay on a monthly basis. So I had a variety of different positions and roles with a few companies to basically assist international students in various ways. And during COVID, the main line of business was assisting high school students, which was completely disrupted. So I went from pre-COVID looking at drastically expanding, at least probably at least the business was going to grow by at least 10x in 1 year because I had made a new partner, and this partner had hundreds of kids across the country, and we're going to go from doing a few consultations a year to dozens. And when COVID hit, he went down 96%. It basically took him out. So I had to find a way to pivot, right? Because all of my existing client base and my existing business model of assisting high school students was gone effectively, for at least for the next few years, it would appear. Prior to that, a few years earlier, I had worked with a few other associates on trying to form articulation agreements between Chinese universities and American universities. And at the time, it wasn't successful with that partner, that strategy. But at the core of it, what those agreements are is the American universities agreeing to accept the Chinese university's credits and vice versa. So the student will will be enrolled in the Chinese university for 2 to 3 years, come over to the US, and then they will finish their degree in the US typically in 1.5, 2 years. And they'll have a degree from both universities, which is very advantageous to them because they then typically will apply for master's programs at a different school, maybe the same school, but it gives them the ability to enter into the American education market, which is far more difficult on the master's level if you don't have your undergraduate degree from a US institution. And so through the pandemic, I made an association with a new partner, ironically from the previous partner who these deals were not working out with in the past. And since then, a combination of it being the correct partner and also the pandemic putting pressure on universities to change and to look at their admissions differently, we've had a great deal of success.
I am curious, when students come here from abroad, are there any particular trends you see? Are there particular topics they're interested in or particular career paths they hope to take?
So our programs actually, was they're approved by the Ministry of Education, we have to apply for one major and we have to have approval for that area. And so we are developing a common curriculum between the two universities for that one major, but we can recruit across majors. So if there's a random student in a different major, that's fine to bring them in, and we would, generate a normal commission from that. But in particular, business MBAs in particular, finance in particular, was the bread and butter of the industry for the last 15 years. And now it has gone down to zero. You cannot get approval from the ministry. Every university has 500 MOUs in business. So there's no market there anymore. So we've seen a shift now towards STEM, in particular engineering and computer science, very heavily. And actually, arts have become popular recently. Visual arts, industrial design, some things that we would never have expected in the past.
In your tutoring, are you finding that most people are still kind of going forward with the SATs anyway, just because it's another marker to help somebody determine if you're a good candidate for that school? Or are you starting to see people think about other ways to put their candidacy forward for school?
Very much so, because my business model for tutoring is dependent upon the high school I went to. Actually, the guidance counselor refers sometimes a dozen students a year, sometimes more. You know, I have an arrangement where he would put in a publication, a college night per se, and from that I would receive numerous referrals. And so every year around March, April, people start calling in, and I start forming little classes or doing some individual on top of that, but generally small classes is what I do. So it's somewhat of an insulated market for me, because I mean, currently most students aren't aware or sure where they want to go and what the requirements are. So if you know for a fact you want to go to university A, B, C, and D, and you know none of them require the SAT, you're fine. But if you're not sure at this time, which most students in their junior year don't know where they want to go, you don't know the requirement. So you might have to take it, and that's the advice I give. You know, you should still take it, because you don't know if you're going to want to apply to University A, and you had to take it, and now it's too late, and it's October. So we have to see over the next 5 years how that shifts. I don't believe that the long-term trend of removing standardized examinations is going to work out well or continue. So I think it's going to be more of a fad. It's for now, it's going to happen. But the universities do need an internal metric to compare students for admissions purposes. So some of them are probably going to independently start making their own tests, which is what we had before the SAT. Right. And then students aren't going to like that, because in order to get into apply to 10 different universities, you have to take 10 different tests. And then they're going to see their admissions get hurt, because students aren't going to be as open in the amount of schools they apply to. They're going to be more selective. And then they're going to wish they had that back. And then they're going to come back to College Board again.
You know, I'm just wondering, is there, you know, a piece of it that you really enjoy? I know you said you'd enjoy the tutoring, and you know, hope to be professor at some point. You know, I'm just curious, you know, if you had to give up one of these things, what's the one thing you would definitely not give up at this point?
If money was of no concern, the one thing I wouldn't give up would be the teaching tutoring. You know, if I could just do that all day, that'd be fun. I would like that. But in reality, if I had to give up one, well, I would give up accounting. There's no, it's accounting. It's enjoy. Listen, a large portion of what I enjoy about accounting is the fact that I'm effectively trying to prevent the IRS from getting money. I'm not a big fan of the government taking money from people. But aside from that, no. I would definitely say I'd have to keep the international business, because it's challenging in many ways, but also I love negotiating. I love deal making. It definitely is exciting in that regard. Very long process. I mean, now I'm working on a deal almost for a year, and we're getting to the end now where we have to get this very slow moving university to move quickly, which is good that we start talking to them a year ago, because there's other universities I talked to, and in 60 days, they're ready to go, basically.
We were talking before the event started. I mentioned that my junior year abroad was really a magical experience that has stayed with me, and something that I think my life would have been very different had I not had this wonderful experience of spending junior year in Florence as a student. And even though it's a cliche that I was yet another American art history student in Florence, the opportunity to live with a family where nobody spoke any English, and I really had to speak Italian for the time I was there and immerse myself in that life. I think even if I don't know exactly how it changed my life, I feel that that was a profound experience for me and set me on a certain path. And I'm just wondering if there's something you look back on, because your school years are a lot closer than mine were, but I wonder if there's an experience you had as an undergrad or in graduate school that you think, that's really where it all crystallized for you, that this was the path you were going to take.
I think I would say there's a little bit more of an accumulation of events and opportunities. I very rarely said no to an opportunity. If I try, in terms of different work engagements, or if something came up, I would always try and do it or fit it in, or things of that nature. And that general attitude towards opportunities is what led to me finding this profession. Someone had, circumstances, actually, it's a fairly interesting story, so I'll take it that way. Actually, no, so I could find a singular event, being the bulletin director at my parish. So the bulletin director was getting sick. I worked at the parish. I then took over the bulletin. Someone emailed the bulletin director, me at the time, saying that they had a Chinese student a high school student who's looking for housing. I have no clue. I've never done anything like this before, but I know that a friend from high school, his mother had taken in Chinese students in the past. So I make the connection. I simply, handed the contact information over, asked if she was interested, and gave her information to this person in California, who I still have never met, but have worked with numerous times now. And that's gonna be the singular event, because from there, I made the first partnership. From that partnership with Jennifer, I met Jason. From Jason, I met Michael. From Michael, I met Ryan. And as a result, Ryan's the current partner who I do a lot of my work with. And the businesses and strategies I've applied with each of those partners have led to other partners, from common meetings, from deciding to do this strategy or this business, and then meeting person XYZ as a result of it. And so being open to different opportunities and trying things out, some work, some don't, that definitely is a general thing that's important in my opinion. But more specifically, I would say that singular instance of me just trying to do someone a favor, not realizing anything of it, resulted in all these partnerships falling into place. So yeah, I would definitely say that then, actually.
Well, that's a fantastic story. And I also couldn't agree more that at a certain point in your life, the best thing you can do is not say no.